bit. Okay. So we we thought we'd start by asking some questions. We thought we maybe start off by just you're stating your name, how long you were in prison, where you were in prison, whatever you'd like to share about that, where you're originally, okay, something like that.
Well, I'm originally from Massachusetts, and I went out to Virginia in 2013 on vacation with my then girlfriend, who's not my girlfriend no more. But when I went out there, we were staying in a trailer park, and I smoked weed and stuff like that. And there was a guy in the trailer park that sold weed, so I went to him to go get some weed. And when I pulled up on his property, he was engaged in a hand-to-hand combat with another guy, and the other guy was getting upper hand. But because it was a one-on-one fight, I wasn't really trying to get involved in it, Well, the guy that was losing, his girlfriend came out, and she started freaking out, and she tried to help her boyfriend out. So now that led to the other guy. Now it's two of them, and the other guy was losing. So another guy jumped in and started hitting the girl. So I pulled him off of her, and I beat him up. And the judge said I went too far because I ended up holding him down, and she hit him with the baseball bat a couple times. But I was raised with two sisters and a mother, and I don't like that woman beating stuff. And I kind of I had to do years of therapy because I watched my mom get beat up by my dad and stuff, and I was too young, and I had guilt behind it and stuff like that. So when stuff like that happens, I'm sure none of that was taken into consideration when I was sentenced, but I ended up getting 5 years. And
so you were charged with assault? Is that what you were charged with?
I was charged with unlawful wounding.
Unlawful wounding. Okay.
Right. I was also charged with identity theft because when they asked me my name, I gave them my birth name instead of my adopted name. So I was charged with identity theft for stealing my own identity.
Huh. Wow.
But I shouldn't have lied to him. I own up to that. I should have just been forthright with him and stuff. But the judge did give me the minimum, which was 5 years. And he could have gave me a lot more, And he understood that I was from a place that was different than where I was currently at. I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts, which is it's a rough little city, So
yeah. Been there.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
But I originally started my bid. First, I went into what was it called? Receiving over there at I can't remember the name of the place. It was a receiving.
Let me ask
you. Bland's Farms is where I went to receiving, right?
Before you start with that,
okay.
Where were you? Where was the trial? Where did you have a trial? Did you do a plea bargain, or what was?
It's actually up on Southwest Virginia News or something like that. You can find this whole thing online. So if anybody wants to go and follow up on this with that, they can feel free to do so. But I was tried in Floyd County, in between Roanoke and Pulaski.
Okay.
Roanoke and Radford.
Yes.
And I have a long mental health history, but none of that was took into consideration or even mentioned. A lot of my juvenile history was mentioned in the courtroom, even though it's not supposed to apply to my sentencing and stuff like that. But I got sentenced to 5 years before suspended, and I did a year at the Southwest Regional Jail in Dublin, Virginia. And I did a year there and actually did 9 months because I got good time and they let me out. And I got out on probation, in which I secured my own trailer over there in Pulaski. And I had work and stuff like that, and I was doing good. But the only problem is I had a custody battle going on for my kids in Massachusetts. And Virginia probation was saying, you can't leave the state of Virginia. And Massachusetts wasn't trying to let me transfer my probation over there because of my criminal history. They said I'm not a candidate for probation. Well, apparently I was in Virginia because I was on probation in Virginia. You know? So what I did is I was like, well, I ended up absconding from supervision, went back to Massachusetts, went to court for my kids. I got picked up on the warrant for Virginia, and but I went to court for my kids from court and stuff like that. But I ended up getting transferred back to Virginia before it all completed. So I ended up losing my son. He got adopted and his name changed and all that stuff. So I don't know where he is. But
Well, you don't even know where he is.
no, I'm not allowed to know.
I see.
Till he's 18.
And how old is he now?
9, 10. But when I first got sentenced, I found out that the county jail I was in was allowed to hold you for up to 5 years before they transfer you into DOC. You know, well, there was an incident where I had some words with an officer while I was in handcuffs and shackles, and he threw me around while I was handcuffed, and he ended up getting reprimanded for that, and I actually opened up a criminal complaint on him, which I filed. And as far as I filed a grievance too at the facility. And so after I filed the grievance, the majors called me into his office. They said, "What do you want me to do about this?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure what my options are, but I think maybe you should just ship me out to prison so I can get out of this hellhole that I'm in." Well, he said, "Okay, I can do that." And instead of, a lot of other people have been sentenced already, and they've been waiting years. They keep telling me, "You're never going to get out of here early, this and that." But I filed my paperwork. I kind of put the warden in a little corner. And so he gave me what I wanted, which was to get shipped out. He shipped me out to, they ended up shipping me out to receiving at Bland County Correctional Center in Bland, Virginia. I spent a couple weeks there, and they determined that I was level 3 security. So they sent me to Pocahontas Correctional Center. And I did all right there for my first 6 months. Mentally, probably not too well because, it was my first 6 months of a 5-year sentence. But I tried my best to cope. I got a job in the kitchen, which I worked in for about 6 months until one day, it was my day off. I was working from 3:30 in the morning until 6:30 at night.
Wow.
For about 25 cents an hour. I just thought I'd mention that. But and if you didn't work those hours that they gave you, you didn't have a job. And I didn't have nothing coming in from the outside. I was desperate, so I had no choice but to get one of those cheap jobs that, they don't pay you nothing. You know what I'm saying? Well, one day was my day off, and the way it goes is like if you get medications at lunchtime, they have you go into the chow. They have you go into the med line, which is on your way to the chow hall outside. And sometimes the med line be long. You see people from other pods and stuff. They do chow pod at a time. Well, by the time I got my meds and went through the med line, my pod had already left. So I went to the line to get my food. And once I sat down, one of the officers was like, "Hey, your pod left. You need to pick up and throw your food away and go back to your pod." And I was like, "Well, I haven't eaten yet. I'm entitled to, I think it's like 20 minutes a meal or something like that." Well, he was like, "Well, your pod already left, so you got to go back." I was like, "Well, tell that to medical, because it's not my fault. I got to eat. I have a right to eat." And he said, you can throw your stuff away, or me and you're going to have a problem. And I didn't want to throw my stuff away. You know what I'm saying? And I continued to eat. And he grabbed my tray, and I stood up aggressively about it and stuff like that. And so the COs ended up, he was trying to put handcuffs on me, but I told him, I said, "You put the handcuffs on me." He didn't want to put the handcuffs on me. So he tried to walk me to segregation, and the other lieutenants and stuff were like, "Where are you going with him?" And he's like, "I'm taking him to seg." He's like, "Why is it in handcuffs?" It's because he was too scared to put handcuffs on me. But I wasn't like, but the lieutenant came over, he put handcuffs on me. I didn't give him no problems or nothing. They brought me to segregation, and that's where I stayed until they transferred me to Wallens Ridge. But the things I've seen at Pocahontas, Wallens Ridge, and Sussex One are crazy. They chain people to the showers over there at Pocahontas because it's a blind spot, and nobody can see anybody chained up for hours to the showers. They just think that you're bringing them to the showers and dropping them off, but that's not the case. They chain you to that thing. And they use suicide watch as a punishment. Like, you don't have to claim to be suicidal or nothing. But if you act out, you know, or let them get to you and stuff like that, and you make too much noise, they'll chain you up butt naked. They'll strip your cell, chain you up, wrist to ankles, naked with no mattress, no nothing to lay on except for the cold steel cot, you know. And it's
This
supposed
was
to
in
be that.
Pocahontas or in
And
Wallens Ridge or both?
that was at Pocahontas, but Wallens Ridge, they do that. They do it even more so. They do it more than they do at Pocahontas, because Pocahontas was a level 3, and Wallens Ridge is a max.
Right.
But yeah, they do that throughout the whole system. They do it throughout the whole system, and it's supposed to be that if you calm down after 8 hours, they'll take the restraints off you. But instead, they just, once you go in, you're in for 24 hours. That's the longest that they're supposed to hold you, is 24 hours. It's the longest that they can legally hold you is 24 hours. So they take it to the max. When they come to check on you and sign your checklist, they'll put whatever they have to make it look good for you to be in the restraints. They'll make it look like you're still wilding out and causing disruptions, or you're unsafe to yourself or others. And you will spend the whole night chained up like that in a cold cell. You know, a cell that's colder than all the rest of the cells. But they ended up transferring me to Wallens Ridge. And at first, I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders because I was having such a hard time at Pocahontas. But when they take you to Wallens Ridge, they bring you straight to the hole. And when I first got there, it was still segregation. It wasn't RHU yet. I got introduced to the Interfaith Action for Human Rights by a lifer over there at Wallens Ridge. When the officers would refuse to feed me, sometimes when I was in there, you know, I'd make noise about it. You're not just gonna not feed me and me not, you know, make noise about it. Everybody's gonna know that you didn't feed me, because everybody's gonna know, because I'm gonna tell everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so the lifer guy, he seen a little activism about me, and he gave me Miss Gardner's information. So I contacted her, and she rode out with me for like almost my whole 4-year bid. And you know, she gave me inspiration that wasn't there when I first got there. You know, I felt like I was capable of maybe being able to do something, make the place a better place. All the people, you know, not too many people go home from Wallens Ridge, you know, so a lot of people told me that, you know, because I'm going home, they're like, don't forget about us, make sure you keep on fighting for us and this and that. You're our only hope. You know, I ain't going home. I can't make no noise and this and that. So I was like, I got you, you know, and that's part of the reason I'm sitting here right now, because I made a lot of friends in prison. You know, not everybody in prison is bad people. I never joined a gang in prison or nothing like that. I was a self-proclaimed anarchist, and when I told people that, like the Aryan Brotherhood and stuff like that, you know, when they try to recruit me, they you know, they listen to it, and they don't challenge it or nothing like that, because they don't really know too much about it. You know what I mean? But Wallens Ridge, man, that wasn't even prison. That was hell.
Michael,
Yeah.
it's great to meet you finally. And
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. What Do you know what caused you to be moved from Pocahontas to Wallens Ridge?
Well, a mixture of things. It was my first 6 months, and I was a little, I, I might have been a little bit of headstrong, you know, but I seen a lot of bad things going on around me that weren't supposed to be going on. And that kind of like put fuel to the fire because the officers over there are real protective over the female staff, which is understandable. But if you walk down the boulevard and you even glance at one of them females, one of those officers will come up behind you, lift you up, and drop you on your head. That's what they do at Pocahontas. So I seen all that, and I went into, you know, activist mode, like, oh, you're not supposed to do that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they don't like an activist, you know, so they were pushing back against me, and I was like, you know what, I need to get the hell out of here and go to a different prison. You know, because little did I know, I never been in prison before, so I thought, you know what, if I go to a better prison, a different prison, it'd be better than this one. You know, this one's crazy. They just be assaulting you, chaining you up to the showers because it's a blind spot and all that. Stripping your cell, chaining you from your ankles to your wrists. When I first got to Wallens Ridge, like I said, it wasn't RHU yet. It was segregation still. Well, they came out one day and had us all line up outside our cells in the pod, and they gave us all kinds of papers talking about we no longer have disciplinary segregation. Sign this paper for us, please. And it was like a big celebration, you know, in the prison about it. You know, nobody really thought it was for real, you know. But it seems like for every time, I don't know, the RHU is not much different than segregation. They got loopholes. Their lawyers, I don't know if their lawyer thinks about this stuff or what, but I mean, they've talked about it, you know. They talk about all the stupid RHU that they're doing now, you know, and they still call it segregation. They still call it the hole. It's not anything different, except for like, I mean, they take you out for rec during the day, but the rec is coming out of your cell and being chained to a table in the middle of the pod. As far as I know, that's how it was about a year ago when I got released, you know. And when you chain someone into those tables and you do showers at the same time, the officers conduct showers at the same time, it leaves the people that are chained up to the table vulnerable to attacks such as spitting or any other forms of aggression. You know, maybe someone might slip out of the arms of the officer on the way to the shower and assault an offender that's chained to the table. You know what I'm saying? I actually got removed from Wallens Ridge once after contacting you. I think I mentioned to you about when I got assaulted by the officers, and you contacted the warden to ask about this or whatever. And shortly after that, they shipped me out to Sussex 1. And on the paperwork, I looked at it, and the paperwork, it didn't say why I was getting shipped out. You know, all it said was that I was being traded with some other prisoners. And I actually, I was having a hard time at Sussex 1 too. It's no surprise, you know, but there was a little bit more elbow room in Sussex 1, but there was still the same amount of abuse going on. The biggest one I seen, the biggest example I seen was we had a day to go to the gym, which we hadn't had in like a long time, you know. And when we came back from the gym, there was two black guys arguing about the basketball game, and it was getting escalated. And one of the guys invited the other guy into the cell to fight. Well, on the way to the cell, one of the guys hit the other guy, knocked him out. He was knocked out unconscious, spread out on the floor on his back. And when the officers responded, they responded with 2 canines. The guy that knocked him out had locked himself back in his cell because he already knows when the canines come in, you don't want to be out of your cell and be the aggressor. Otherwise, you're going to get chewed on, you know? So what happened was the officers walked over to the guy that was knocked out unconscious and started yelling at him to roll over. But because he was unconscious, he wasn't able to roll over, you know? And so they made it look like a sign of aggression. And they put the 2 German Shepherds on top of him, you know? And the German Shepherd started chewing on him while he was unconscious. And as he was coming to, he didn't know what was going on. So I stood up. I was like, hey, the man's unconscious. What the hell are you guys doing? Get those dogs off of him. And instead of taking the dogs off of him, you know, they pointed one of the dogs at me, you know, and tried to intimidate me with the dog. Well, that's when the whole pod went into an uproar. Everybody refused to lock in. There was a guy in the middle of being put in handcuffs and brought to the hole, and everybody told the cops that they couldn't take him. Pretty much all the prisoners ran the police off the pod, you know. And this was shortly around the time that one of the administrators had been stabbed by one of the, you know, because he sent out like 30-something bloods, shipped them out to higher prisons and stuff like that. And I guess the bloods put like a, you know, declared war on the officers, and it just turned into a big thing. But at the end of the day, the man was unconscious. They put the dogs on the man that was unconscious, and I was trying to do the right thing by standing up, you know. And it wasn't long after that that I got shipped out back to Wallens Ridge. And when I got back to Wallens Ridge, there was a major who's now a captain. His name is King. And when he seen me, he seen my face doing his rounds in RHU or whatever you want to call it. He said, "Why are you back here? Why did they send you back here?" I said, "I don't know. You know, I was involved in a riot over there at the Sussex 1. He's like, "But still, you shouldn't have been sent back here." I said, "Well, I'm going home in 6 months." And he said, "We'll see about that." And as soon as he said that, I started pushing paperwork. I started trying to protect myself from any type of retaliation being set up, you know, or anything like that, because that's not a joke. I'm getting out in 6 months. I don't need to stress about if an officer is going to plant a shank in my cell while I'm taking a shower, or I didn't even want to go back to population. I wanted to finish my bid in the hole, because if I went back to population, they would have had all kinds of chances to plant stuff on me. And like I said, not a lot of people go home from Wallens Ridge. Most of the people there are lifers, and I was one of the lucky ones, you know. But
I have a question, Michael.
Yeah.
It's of interest to us specifically. Okay. So you mentioned this terrible story about the use of dogs. Did you see the use of attack dogs often while you were in prison?
Oh yeah, every time I woke up, you know, every time I woke up in the morning for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, on the way to the chow hall, you seen attack dogs. I seen those dogs bark at other officers. They don't just bark at the prisoners. Those dogs are loyal to their handler, and that's it. They're aggressive to any other living being around them.
And did you see many times that where they were used to break up fights or to impose order?
Yep. In Sussex 1, often prisoners would refuse to lock in to get a little bit more rec time. Whenever that happened, they would come up with the dogs to use, you know, to show force so that everybody would go back in their cells. Because technically, if you refuse to go back in your cell, they can stick the dog on you, you know. So we would, you know, sometimes we just to get a little, because they won't always let us out for rec. We had to steal rec. That's what we called it, stealing rec, because sometimes they wouldn't let us out when they were supposed to. And so we were like, all right, you don't want to let us out when you're supposed to. We're not going to lock in when we're supposed to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's so they bring their dogs up to round everybody up to go back to their cells.
Did they ever give you reasons why they won't give you rec?
Oh yeah, they'll say that they were short-staffed, or it was a holiday, or they would just straight up tell you ain't coming out today because I don't feel like letting you out.
They would say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, them officers, man. Like, I'm from Massachusetts, and I've been in the system in Massachusetts, and I've never experienced. Look, I grew up in the system. I grew up in DSS, group homes, psych wards, and all that stuff. I wasn't raised in the traditional home setting. You know what I'm saying? And so I've been to institutions, but Wallens Ridge and the Virginia Department of Corrections takes the cake. You know, it was just they call like Southwest Virginia. You know, it's a real rural white
Yes.
area,
I've
and
been there.
they're not shy at all about calling a black guy the N-word,
Yeah.
or nothing like that. You know, they'll be like, do something about it. You know, and they know that they can't do nothing about it because they got dogs, and you know, they'll spray you, or the officers will just start shooting at you and stuff like that. You know, so they kind of like, you know, that's what they run it. You know what I'm saying? They run that prison, and they're not trying to give in to RHU. They want segregation back. You know, they don't like to see a win for the prisoners. You know, they're like, that's their whole motive, is to not let the prisoners win. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing that they do, you know? So when they see activists and stuff, like you guys, you know, we might see a little bit of hope, like, oh, they took away segregation and replaced it with RHU. But the officers are going to be like, oh, well, yeah. But it's not going to be as great as you think.
Right.
That's what they say. Stuff
Mike,
like that.
did you know that the DOC is now claiming to have done away with restrictive housing by allowing everybody 4 hours or more outside their cells every day? And
I didn't know that, but what is the 4 hours? I mean, what does that mean? They're chained to the table for 4 hours?
well, you know, we of course have heard from many people who claim that they don't get 4 hours.
Right.
And, you know,
Oh, yeah, I doubt it.
this is the official policy since January of last year, right
Uh-huh.
before the COVID pandemic. And, you know, we've heard from many people in general population who say that even they didn't get 4 hours, haven't been getting 4 hours out of their cells, partly because of the pandemic.
I wrote you a lot of letters, and I made I think I made a couple like things that, you know, tell about different parts of the day and stuff like that. And I believe at one point I sent you a letter showing you that we weren't able to go outside for like 3 or 4 months. They always have a loophole. Yeah, they might be entitled to 4 hours out of their cell if they're not short-staffed, if there's not an emergency going on in another pod, if this, if that, you know what I'm saying? They'll come up with excuses not to let people out for the full 4 hours.
No, and they're chronically short-staffed. They complain about it. You know, when we talk to them,
especially with COVID,
short-staffed. Yeah.
You know?
So
I seen that such as one officers would quit right there in the middle of the day on the job. There was a big scandal going on about a woman, Miss Mason, that she became a lieutenant, and everybody was wondering how she became a lieutenant. And one of her fellow officers was walking around talking about how she became a lieutenant, insinuating that she did a sexual favor for him. And so she ended up quitting right there on the spot and left.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another officer that got fired. He had just became sergeant. He got fired because he showed up to work drunk, super drunk. And so he got charged with driving under the influence because he drove to work. And he called in from work and said to the warden that he was in jail. And he ended up getting fired right over the phone. But I mean, those aren't, it's not rare to hear about that kind of stuff. I mean, I used to write up the officers for chewing dip just to be petty, you know? All the officers in Southwest Virginia chew dip, you know, but it's supposed to be a tobacco-free facility. And because they chew dip and they spit it out on the sidewalks, some of the prisoners will actually pick up the dip, dry it out, and sell it on the block as a cigarette. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yep.
yeah, wow.
But that's all because That's all because the officers want to introduce tobacco into the facility.
So they can sell it, you mean?
No, not so they can sell it. I mean, they kind of like laugh at the prisoners for collecting it and rolling it up and smoking it.
I see. I see.
It's kind of nasty.
Yeah. What about the use of the, the buying and selling of contraband and drugs, etc.?
Yup. Well, I did have an incident one time. The guy that got fired,
Yeah.
he was what you call a roller. You know, he used to bring in weed and stuff. He probably got paid for it somehow, you know. But me and him didn't get along very well. So I had some gang members come up to me and say, "Hey, you gotta go. I don't know what you did, but you done pissed off our roller, and he won't bring in no weed unless you leave the block." And I said, "I ain't leaving the block." You know what I'm saying? But it turned into a whole big thing because if I didn't leave the pod, then he wouldn't bring the drugs. If he didn't bring the drugs and I wouldn't leave the pod, then I was probably gonna get jumped or something. But I ended up getting transferred to Wallens Ridge behind the other matters and stuff like that anyway. So nothing ever came out of that. But yeah, they, the officers are bringing like cans of chewing tobacco for, certain prisoners that will give information and tell on each other and stuff like that, They have a mental health pod over there that I was in. I was in that pod, the mental health pod, but there's no record of it. There's no record of it at all. The mental health over there, oh, that's another thing I wanted to bring up. The mental health over there is bad because, you got mental health professionals that they know what to do, but the warden and the Virginia Department of Corrections have got their hands tied so that they can't really do what they got to do mental health wise for people. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're rubbing feces on yourself or you cut your own throat, you're not going to get no mental health attention, no matter how bad you ask for it. The most mental health attention I got was a notebook. They said, "Here, just write your feelings into it," but I didn't receive no medications. I have a lifelong history of mental illness. I actually got it sent to me while I was over there. And I couldn't get no mental health attention the whole time I was there.
Why do you think that is? Is it because they don't have enough funding or what?
It's because, like, the warden, I guess they got their hands tied. They're not allowed to say things. They're not allowed to do things in favor of the prisoners. Like, that's how the prison is designed. It's designed to not be a nice place for prisoners.
Yeah.
It's designed to just put them through mental warfare.
Punish people, yes.
Yeah. So they don't want no, like, mental health people coddling the prisoners or being like, hey, because mental health has they have the power. You know what I'm saying? They can be like, look, this guy needs a radio to listen to. He's got mental health problems and he needs a radio to listen to. He ain't got no TV or nothing. Like, mental health can make that happen, but the warden won't let them do that. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, in Massachusetts, even the diet pertains to mental health. The diet is part of mental health because you got to have a nutritious diet with good food in order to have mental health. It's a good mental health, you know what I'm saying? But there's no such thing as good food over at Wallens Ridge, in the higher ones. The lower ones like Bland Correctional, Pocahontas, they got decent food, but they don't give you a lot of it. If you ain't getting commissary, you're going to lose a lot of weight and you're going to be hungry. And I didn't get commissary or anybody sending me money or nothing like that. They charge you for medical and everything. So if you have to go to medical for whatever, you have a pre-existing condition like psoriasis or something that requires medical treatment, they charge you for all the medicine. And if you ever do get money on your books, they just take it automatically. It don't matter who it came from. And that's why I think when you guys when you guys originally sent me the money from a bus ticket. Remember we ran into that problem?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I said, look, they took the money that you guys sent me, and I felt like shit because you guys were trying to help me out, you know. And they took the money that you guys originally sent me for my bus ticket. That's what it was intended for. But
well,
they took it, so you had to find a new way to send me the money so that I
yeah.
could.
Well,
leave.
tell us about the day you left and what happened after that. I remember that, you know, we were concerned, and I know you were concerned that they weren't going to provide any preparation for your release, and they were just going to dump you at the nearest state line.
That's what they did. They drove me. Well, you guys arranged the bus.
Right.
They took me at 12:30 at night and dropped me off in Tennessee on the Tennessee-Virginia border. And they just dropped me off, said, just wait here for the bus. And they took off. And it was dark. And I don't know what part of Tennessee they had me in, but there was gunshots. And I was just sitting there in my khakis, you know, waiting for the bus. But
and the bus took you to Alexandria or something, right?
Yeah, the bus took me. It took me to
Fredericksburg.
Massachusetts. There was a lot of stops.
Oh, Fredericksburg.
Is that what it was? The Virginia Tennessee line. I was technically in Tennessee.
Yeah, I know, but then the bus took you to. It was supposed to take you to Fredericksburg up in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took me. I don't know where it took me. I just know it took me to a bunch of stops on the way to Massachusetts.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, because they were originally going to take you, I think, to Northern Virginia and to just drop you there. And
that's what I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't take me to Northern Virginia.
I see.
They took me somewhere close to like Southwest Virginia in Tennessee.
I see. And you stayed on that bus all the way to Massachusetts, or you transferred?
I transferred a couple times. I believe I transferred in Maryland or something like that. Transferred in New Jersey and in New York at the Port Authority.
I see.
Yeah.
So what happened when you got back to Massachusetts? How did that work?
When I got back to Massachusetts, they my destination was Springfield, Massachusetts. And when I got back there, I had to go seek out the closest homeless shelter. And I went and seeked out the homeless shelter and I stayed there. And actually I met my wife there. I just got married in March. We got a baby on the way in September. And we just moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Kingston, New York. And we're doing good.
Kingston. Okay.
We're doing real good now.
I used to live in Poughkeepsie, by the way.
Oh yeah? We was just up in New Paltz.
Yeah, I was a rabbi in Poughkeepsie for 10 years.
Nice. It's nice up there, ain't it?
Well, Mid-Hudson Valley is very beautiful, yes.
Yeah, I love it. I love it out here. You know, I built a little community out here. You know, I live in kind of what they call the hood, but there's not a lot of, there's some good people over here, you know. We all look out for each other. We feed each other. We smoke with each other. We help each other out with furniture, you know. And I don't do drugs, you know. I like weed. It's legal out here in New York though now, so I can't go to jail for it.
In a previous conversation, you had mentioned something. You had talked a little bit about the racism that you experienced.
Oh yeah, you know.
If you could just talk a little bit about that.
Being from Massachusetts, the north, and going to the south is a completely different world, man. Like, you got kids as young as 18, 19, Mexican, El Salvadorian, serving life sentences in places like Susquehanna and Wallen Ridge. Like, it's crazy. And like I said, the officers, when they get into arguments with the black guys, they're not shy about calling them the N-word. And at Sussex 1, the majority of the officers and the prisoners are black. And they're not shy about calling you trailer trash or, you know, white trash or something like that. The racism is real out there in the prison system. I don't know about the rest of the world, but you know, when I first went into the system, I sat down at a table of black guys because I was comfortable because of where I'm from. I'm from a melting pot, you know. So I sat down and people looked at me and was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just sitting down, chilling, looking at the TV." And he's like, "Look around." And I looked around and all the white guys were sitting with the white guys and all the black guys were sitting with the black guys. But there were some New Yorkers that were locked up in Virginia. And they explained to the black guys from Virginia, be like, "Nah, he's good, he's all right, you know. He's not like these Virginia boys out here. He's from up north with us, you know. It's not like that where we're from." And it's really not. Like it was a big awakening for me, you know, as far as race. I've never experienced racism. I've never, you know, but when I went to Virginia, it was prevalent for sure, you know. And the officers, they don't care, man. They're tobacco chewing, country listening, boots wearing to work, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're good old country boys, you know? And I actually picked up the accent, which I'm trying to get rid of. But I had a cellmate.
I don't hear that Boston accent so much, so.
Oh, that's because I'm from Western Massachusetts.
Oh, you're from Western, man, okay.
Yup.
Got it.
I know there was a lot more I wanted to say, but I just can't think about it right now.
Okay.
Ms. Gardner, what I want to say is you guys, the Interfaith Action for Human Rights, Ms. Gardner, oh my God, man. I hadn't seen her not one time with my eyes, but she was such a blessing to me. You know, the self-help litigation manual, the little support, you know, when I told her about getting beat up by the police, you know, just knowing that she was there, you know, to have my back, you know, because originally I felt like I was just lost in cyberspace somewhere, you know, like nobody knew where I was, nobody had my back, I didn't have no support. I really felt like I wasn't never going to make it out of there, even though I was just doing a little 5 years. I felt like I was going to catch another case or something like that. So it was nice. Miss Gardner writing me letters, she yelled at me a couple times. She said, "You need to sit down." She said, "You need to sit down and stop making so much noise for right now." Yeah, it might not be worth it. So I appreciate that. You know, she was like my mom in there, you know.
Well, thanks for saying that. I always wish that we could do more. It's very hard to hear the experience of you and so many other people and realize that we're very limited in the help we can provide sometimes.
Right. No, you guys do a good job though, man. You guys got DOC shook right now. And they need to be, because they can't be abusing people with suicide watch. You know, they can't be manipulating the system like that, you know, and they don't like the RSU thing, but you know, you guys got to stay on top of it. You know, you guys got to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and that's what you guys are doing, and you're doing a good job, you know, and stuff's starting to change, you know. There's a lot of prisoners. There's no unity amongst the prisoners for the most part because everybody just gave in to the officers doing what they do, you know. There's nothing you can do to stop them. You can't beat them. That's what everybody says, you know. But I refuse to hear that, you know. You can't beat me. I'm out here. You know, I got a good life with my wife, and all that stuff, and I had to endure everything I did, you know, for the crime that I committed. But cuffing people from their hands to their ankles, butt naked with nothing, and then pumping their air conditioner on higher, you know, so that they can get cold and stuff like that. I mean, if somebody's really suicidal and they put you in that kind of a position, it's just gonna make you want to kill yourself more, you know? Like, you're already serving life. You're already separated from your parents. You're already never gonna know what it's like to be next to a woman again. You're never gonna know what it's like to have good food again. I mean, you don't need to be chained up, hands to ankles, butt naked in yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're already going through it. You know, you're already suicidal. They're just making it worse. And I actually witnessed the guy cut his throat in the shower stall down there at Wallens Ridge. when I first got there.
Wow.
I've been put in cells with people bigger than me, and I actually lost my hearing in a fight, you know, and medical listens to whatever officers say too. So like, if they put the cuffs on you, if the cuffs are too tight, and if medical comes in and says they're too tight, then medical will get yelled at or something, you know what I'm saying? So if your cuffs are too tight, they're supposed to just come in and be like, oh yeah, they're good. And they leave you with the cuffs tight on your ankles and on your wrists, cutting off the circulation for 24 hours, you know? It's hard to explain, man. Like,
You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job explaining.
Everybody be like, oh, you did the crime, you do the time. But I mean, I didn't go to prison for thievery. I didn't go to prison for any crimes against a child. I went to prison because I seen a woman getting her ass whooped by a man, and I intervened, and that man took a swing at me, you know? And so I was agitated. He was agitated. The woman was agitated because she just got beat up, and the judge said I took it too far. You know, he gave me my little 5 years, but I mean, he could have gave me 20. He could have gave me 10. He could have gave me anything in between 5 and 20. You know, I didn't even get probation, but I got 5 years. You know, how you get 5 years and don't get probation?
Yeah.
Well, you have a lot of very important information for the public here, and I'd love to actually show this interview to some officials in the Department of Corrections.
I would love for them to see it.
Great.
I would love for them to see my face once again.
Well, we might just ask for you.
I told them, I said, look, when I get out of here, I'm making noise about you people because what you guys are doing is wrong.
Right.
You know? And I told them that. So I would love for them to see this video.
So I think, Michael, what I'll do, I'll send you a note asking you to write me, giving us permission, specific written permission, that we can use this either parts of this interview for to show to different prison officials as well as to the public.
Well, for this record, you have my permission to use this video however you want to use it. And if there's anything else you need from me, you guys just ask me.
Okay, we will do.
And I got another guy, he was my cellmate at Wallens Ridge. And he was a mental health case over there. He was getting mental health treatment, but he had asked me to tell you that he is interested in also doing a video interview with you guys.
Okay, he's released?
Yeah, he's released and he's in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, if you can send me his contact info, I'll write you an email so that and you can write me back with his name and contact.
I told him I was gonna. Is it okay if I give him your number?
Yes,
the one that I called from the website.
Yes.
All right, I'll give him that one. He said that he'll call you and that he's interested. He's like, hell yeah, I'm interested. We both went through and hey, look, let me tell you something about my cellie, the one that I'm talking about right now. I didn't have no money coming in, no TV, no music to listen to, no nothing. My cellie and his mom took care of me while I was in there. They made sure I had food to eat. They made sure I had TV to watch. Through all the misery, that man was able to reach out to me, and that helped me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That man was convicted. He didn't have to help me.
Yeah.
He had to do the shit for me, you know. But he gave me food. He let me watch TV. The man really, we're friends to this day. We talk to each other on Facebook. He really did good. He did, you know, he was a convicted felon. He did what he did, but you know what? He had a heart. He had a heart for me to feed me and to give me TV.
Well, I'm really glad you're doing so well.
Yeah. And congratulations on your marriage. And And I wish all the best for the new addition to your family.
Yeah.
For real.
You'll have to let us know when the baby's born.
It's all going up from here. You know,
Yeah.
it's all uphill from here, you know. It's
Yeah.
all good stuff. Me and my wife, we got a baby on the way, you know.
That's
So
right.
I'm just trying to, I want to put it behind me, but I don't want to put it too far behind me because we still got changes. We got people in there suffering.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's great that you care about that so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So I think we'll close this off now. We really appreciate your taking the time with us.
I
And
appreciate it.
we will continue to be in touch with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
love
Take care,
you,
Michael.
Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah. Give my best to your wife as well.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Hey, look, this is her right here.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you, Janice.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna end the conversation now.
Okay.
All right, bless you guys.
Yeah, take care.
You too.